The moment my daughter-in-law looked me in the eyes and called my military medals worthless junk, something inside me broke in a way no battlefield ever managed. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just stared at the pile she'd dumped into a trash bag like 30 years of sacrifice meant nothing. My son stood there, silent. That silence hurt more than her words ever could. Before I tell you what happened next, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to Family Betrayal. Stories like mine remind us that family can heal us, or destroy us. And one more thing, the faces, photos, and scenes you see are only visual illustrations to help tell this story. They're not real people, just a way to bring the memories to life. I served my country for 28 years. I missed birthdays, anniversaries, and Christmas mornings. I buried friends whose families never got to say goodbye. Every medal in that old wooden box carried a name, a memory, or a promise I made to someone who never came home. When my wife died 3 years earlier, those medals became the only things I couldn't bear to pack away. She used to polish the display case every Memorial Day. She'd kiss my forehead and say, "These aren't pieces of metal. They're pieces of your heart." Then my son Jason asked me to move into their guest room after my knee surgery. He said they wanted to help. I believed him. At first, everything seemed fine. Then Emily started making little comments. She'd complain that I took up too much space. She'd roll her eyes when I watched old military documentaries. Once she laughed because I folded my clothes, like I was still in boot camp. I ignored it, until the Saturday she decided to clean the garage without asking me. I walked outside just as she dragged my metal case across the concrete floor. "What are you doing?" I asked. She didn't even stop. "I'm finally getting rid of this junk." I felt my heart drop before I saw the shattered glass. And what she said next made me realize she had been waiting for this moment all along. I rushed toward the broken display case, but Emily stepped in front of me like I was the one causing a problem. "They're just old medals," she said with a shrug. "Nobody cares about this stuff anymore. They're collecting dust, and this garage isn't a museum." I knelt on the concrete anyway. My hands shook as I picked up each medal, one by one. A few had scratches from hitting the floor. One ribbon had torn loose. I ran my thumb over it, remembering the friend who had pinned that medal on my uniform after we lost 2 men from our unit. Emily saw nothing but metal. I saw faces I could never forget. I looked over at Jason, hoping he'd say something. Anything. Instead, he sighed and said, "Dad, maybe she's right. We need the space." Those words hit harder than any punch I'd ever taken. I didn't argue. Some battles aren't worth fighting, especially when you've already lost the people standing beside you. I quietly found an old cardboard box, placed every medal inside it, along with the folded American flag from my wife's funeral and a few faded photographs. Then I carried the box to my truck. Emily smiled as if she'd finally won. "If you're taking that junk," she said, "you might as well take the rest of your things too." Jason never stopped her. I nodded once, climbed into my truck, and drove away without looking back. That night I rented the cheapest motel room I could find. I sat on the edge of the bed with the box beside me, wondering how a man could survive combat but still lose his family in his 70s. As I opened the box, a small envelope slipped from beneath the medals. I'd forgotten it was there. It was a letter from Colonel Harris, written years before he passed away. Inside was a business card and one handwritten sentence. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate. You earned more than medals." The next morning, with nothing left to lose, I made a phone call I never thought I'd have to make. 3 days later, another letter was mailed, not to me, but to Emily. She smiled when she saw the official envelope in her mailbox. By the time she finished reading the first paragraph, the color had completely drained from her face. Emily called me 6 times that afternoon. I didn't answer. Then Jason started calling, then texting. "Dad, please. We need to talk." For the first time in months, they sounded nervous instead of annoyed. The letter Emily had opened wasn't a lawsuit or a threat. It came from the law firm that had managed the estate of Colonel Harris. Years before he died, he'd created a Veterans Foundation to help retired service members who had quietly sacrificed everything. I had never asked for a penny, so they had spent months trying to find me after learning I'd sold my house and disappeared from my old address. Colonel Harris had left me something I never expected. A fully paid home in a peaceful veterans community, a monthly financial stipend, and a seat on the Foundation's advisory board. The Foundation believed my years of service and volunteer work made me the right person to help other veterans rebuild their lives. The attorney had mailed the notification to my son's address because that was the last legal residence they had for me. The same mailbox Emily had laughed beside, had delivered the opportunity she never imagined. Suddenly, I wasn't the old man taking up space. Jason found me at the small apartment the Foundation had arranged until the paperwork was complete. He looked exhausted. "I'm sorry, Dad," he whispered. "I should have stood up for you." I searched his face, hoping to see the little boy who used to salute me every morning before school. "I wasn't asking you to choose between me and your wife," I said quietly. "I only needed you to choose what was right." He lowered his head. He couldn't answer because he knew I was right. A few minutes later, Emily walked in carrying the same cardboard box I'd taken away. Every medal had been polished. The ribbons had been repaired. Even the broken display case had been replaced with a new one. Tears rolled down her face. "I made a terrible mistake," she said. "I judged your past because I never understood it." I believed her tears were real. But I couldn't stop wondering. Was she crying because she finally respected my sacrifices? Or because she had just realized the man she threw away wasn't as useless as she thought? I looked at the medals, then back at both of them. The decision I made next would change all three of our lives forever. I looked at my son first. His eyes were full of regret, but regret doesn't erase choices. It only proves you finally understand them. Then I turned to Emily. She was still holding the new display case with shaking hands. "I forgive you," I said. Both of them let out a breath at the same time. But forgiveness isn't the same as going back. Neither of them spoke. "I won't be moving back into your house," I continued. "A home isn't the place where your belongings are kept. It's the place where you're treated with dignity." Emily broke down crying. "I wish I could undo that day." "So do I answered. "Not because of the medals, because of what your words did to this family." A month later, I moved into the veterans community. For the first time since my wife passed away, I felt peace. Every morning I shared coffee with men and women who understood sacrifice without needing an explanation. We laughed, remembered old friends, and helped younger veterans find jobs, housing, and hope. The Foundation gave me a purpose I thought I'd lost forever. Jason kept visiting every weekend. At first our conversations were awkward. Sometimes we'd sit in silence. Sometimes we'd talk for hours. Little by little, he stopped trying to defend the past and started proving himself through his actions instead. Emily came too. She never asked for money. She never mentioned the house or the Foundation again. Instead, she volunteered at veterans events, organized donation drives, and listened to stories she'd once dismissed. One afternoon she quietly admitted, "I spent years judging things I never tried to understand." That was the first time I truly believed she had changed. On Veterans Day, she handed me the restored medal case. "I know these aren't pieces of metal anymore," she whispered. "They're reminders that freedom always costs someone." I smiled and placed my wife's favorite photograph beside the medals. For the first time in years, it felt complete. Looking back, the greatest reward I ever received wasn't the house, the stipend, or the recognition. It was learning that respect can't be demanded, it has to be protected. If someone treats your life's sacrifices like garbage, don't waste your strength arguing. Quietly walk away with your dignity. The people who value you will eventually find you. Now I want to ask you something. If your own family had treated you the way mine did, would you have forgiven them, or would you have walked away for good? Share your thoughts in the comments because I'd truly like to know. And if this story touched your heart, please share it with someone you love. You never know who needs the reminder to appreciate the people who sacrificed for them while they still can. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to Family Betrayal for more emotional stories that remind us how quickly trust can be broken, and how powerful dignity can be when it's never surrendered.